Please be seated. The court is now in session. Today, the chamber hears testimony of a witness to TCW 1005 concerning internal purchase. And before we proceed on the substantive hearing of hearing testimony of witness to TCW 1005, the chamber wishes to inform the parties that Judge Yutra, who is the national judge, is absent for personal reasons. And after the bench deliberated, the chamber decided to appoint Tumani, the National Reserve Judge, in Judge Yutra's place. Until such time, Judge Yutra is able to return to the bench. And that is pursuant to Rule 79.4 of the ECCC Internal Rules. Ms. Jie Siu Huang, please report the attendance of the parties and other individuals to today's proceedings. Greffier. Mr. President, for today's proceedings, all parties to discuss are present. Mr. Nunji is present in the holding cell downstairs. He has waived his rights to be present in the courtroom. The waiver has been delivered to the greffier. Witness who is to testify today, that is to TCW 1005, confirms that through his best knowledge, he has no relationship by blood or by law to any of the two accused, that is Nunji and Keo Sampon, or to any other civil parties admitted in this case. The witness took an oath before the Iron Club State 2 this morning and is waiting to be called by the chamber in the waiting room. Thank you. President, thank you, Ms. Jie Siu Huang. The chamber now decides on the request by Nunji. The chamber has received a waiver from Nunji dated 26 July 2016, which states that due to his health, that is headache, back pain, he cannot sit or concentrate for long, and in order to effectively participate in future hearings, he requests to waive his right to be present at the 26 July 2016 hearing. He advises that his counsel advised him about the consequence of this waiver, that in no way it can be construed as a waiver of his rights to be tried fairly, or to challenge evidence presented to or admitted by this court at any time during this trial. Having seen the medical report of Nunji by the duty doctor for the accused at ECCC, dated 26 July 2016, which notes that Nunji has a chronic back pain and it becomes severe when he sits for long, and recommends that the chamber shall grant him his request so that he can follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECCC Internal Rules, the chamber grants Nunji his request to follow today's proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs via and audio-visual means. The chamber instructs the AV unit personnel to link the proceedings to the room downstairs so that Nunji can follow. That applies for the whole day. Before we proceed to hear testimony of a witness, the chamber wishes to hear responses from parties to the two requests. First, the OCP request, that is pursuant to Rule 87.4 of the ECCC Internal Rules, for the chamber to admit 4 documents concerning witness to TCW 1005. document E319/48/1, and 2. The request from Nguyen Chia's defense pursuant to Rule 87(4) of the internal rules for the chamber to admit one document concerning the testimony of True TCW 1005. And the chamber will hear responses from parties first to the submission by the co-prosecutors, that is document E319/48/1. And first, the chamber hands the floor to the lead co-lawyers for civil parties to respond to the submissions by the co-prosecutors, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning to all of you. We will rely on the Chamber's wisdom regarding this issue.
Thank you. And then I will hand the floor to the defense team for Nguyen Chia to respond to the submission by the co-prosecutors. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honours. We have no objection.
And now I hand the floor to the defense team for Kieu Sampon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to all of you. Regarding the co-prosecutor's request, we have seen the annex document that lists 4 documents, some of which have already been tendered into evidence, and what is new is the annotations on the document. The issue is that we haven't had access to these annotated documents, so I am unable to respond because the parties have not had access to the annotations. So if we're speaking about documents that have been tendered into evidence, there's no problem. But regarding the annotations, I cannot provide any useful observations yet.
And the co-prosecutor, would you wish to make a comment on that?
Thank you, Your Honour. These attachments were requested for disclosure on the 10th of May this year, and then they were authorised for disclosure on the 15th of July 2016. The documents, the 4 documents or the attachments relate to the statements of this witness and were referred to in the interview. And I'm just assuming that defence for Kieu Samphan have said that they can't access these particular documents. Is that right? That were made available that were requested to be made available in the motion.
Yes, in order to be more specific about this, I understood that these are documents that were annotated a priori by the witness. If that is correct, if I understand the co-prosecutor's request, the problem is that we were told that these documents were annotated, and we do not have access to these annotated documents. We only have the documents that were tendered into evidence without annotations. So I cannot make any particular observations because we haven't accessed the annotated documents. I hope that things are a little clearer now.
Thank you, Your Honours. Well, all that I would ask is that these documents that are attached to this motion, that they be made available to the defence so that they can comment on it. And perhaps we don't need to deal with it right away. And just to be clear, I can't envisage that I'll be necessarily using these documents this morning. But in terms of analysing the statements, I think it's important to have those attachments incorporated. So perhaps if we could postpone until CMS has made these 4 documents available to the defence to look at.
Judge Sam Alavant, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. In order to make things clearer, could the co-prosecutor tell us if the documents that were disclosed contained in their annexes the documents that they wished to put on the case file, and if these annexes had been commented by the witness whom we're going to hear, or are these annexes annexes that were not commented?
Your Honour, all of the attachments have been commented by the witness in the statements. They've been referred to and discussed, and at least a few of them I know have been marked by the witness, particularly the map, and I'm not so clear about the other three, but they've all been referred to in the interview explicitly, and the map has been marked by the witness. But it seems that the defence, even though the motion has been made to the chamber, it seems that the defence haven't got access to the documents yet, and I would just ask that this issue be postponed until CMS makes them available. Again, I won't be using them this morning.
Next, the Chamber would like to hear responses from parties to the submission by the defense team for Nguyen Chi, that is document A424. The Chamber also notes that on the 22nd July 2016, the co-prosecutors informed the Chamber that they do not have any objection to the request by the defense team for Nguyen Chi. Hence, the Chamber now hands the floor to the lead co-lawyers to respond to Nguyen Chi team's submission. That is concerning the request by Nguyen Chi teams to admit one document for questioning these upcoming witnesses. You may proceed.
Pas d'observation particulière.
No specific observations, Mr. President.
And lastly, I'd like to hand the floor to the defense team for Kiew Sampol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regarding this document, we have no specific objection. Simply for everything to be clear here during these proceedings, we'd like to remind you that this document is a document that was requested into evidence by the international co-prosecutor, and the Chamber had rejected it. Now, today everybody agrees to use this document, but maybe the Chamber should reconsider your decision and reason it. The decision of 29 June 2016 E319/47/3. No objections, but simply to make things that everything is clear with regard to the admission of this document. In response to the co-prosecutor's request, as well as the request from my colleague of the Nguyen Chi team.
President, the Chamber thanks the responses from civil parties to the request, and your responses will be used as a basis for the deliberation on this matter. And the Chamber will issue a ruling after the short break this morning. Now the Chamber wishes to hear testimony of witness to TCW 1005. And before we begin, the Chamber notes that the witness has been heard during the investigation into other cases, and the International Investigating Judge considered this witness as part of Group A amongst the C groups in his Memorandum of Understanding, that is document E319/35 and E319/48.5. And based on the request by this witness, a pseudonym should be used in order to protect the confidentiality of the investigation. The Chamber deems that this measure is appropriate according to the law. However, the Chamber also considers the balance between the confidentiality and the public hearing, as well as the integrity of the investigation, and the Chamber would like to remind all parties that they should adhere to instructions in document E319/7 relation to the disclosure of other documents from other cases. Court officer, please usher witness to TCW 1005 into the courtroom. President, good morning, witness. Based on the request from the International Court Investigating Judge, during the proceeding to hear your testimony, you would be referred to as a pseudonym only, that is to TCW 1005, and your name would not be used. You also may be referred to as a witness, and the Chamber prohibits parties to use your full name during this public proceeding. And witness, from my observation, it seems that you have difficulty with your eyesight. Can you tell the Chamber whether you can read? Witness, I'd like the document to be read to me. President, does it mean that due to your poor eyesight, you cannot read the documents? President, allow me to ask you again that you find it difficult to read the documents, and please pause until you see the red light lit on the tip of the microphone before you speak. Witness, I cannot read the documents. President, thank you. The Chamber would like to ask you some questions concerning your identity. That is your full names, nationality, date of birth, place of birth, occupation, names of your parents, your wife's names, and the number of children. And the Chamber notes that the witness cannot read documents due to his poor eyesight. The Chamber assigned Sun Arun, the court officer, to read the documents for witness. And witness, court officer will whisper to you some portions of the document E3/9513 to you, and the portion read is at Khmer EN 0097-5687. English is at 0098-2699. And EN in French 0098. Allow me to repeat the English EN. It is at 0098-2699. And Mr. Arun, please read the highlighted portion in orange through the witness quietly, and then we can ask whether that portion is correct. President, thank you, witness. And after having heard the relevant highlights read to you by court officer, that is concerning your names, date of birth, place of birth, occupation, names of your parents, and names of your wife and number of children, can you tell the Chamber whether the information is correct? Answer. It is correct, Mr. President. President, thank you, witness. The greffier made a report that, to your best knowledge, you are not related by blood or by law to any of the two accused, that is, Nuon Chea and Khae Samphan, or through any of the civil parties admitted in this case. Is that information correct? Answer, yes, it is. President, thank you. The greffier also reported that you took an oath before the Iron Club statue before your appearance. Is that true? Answer: yes, there is. President: thank you. The Chamber now would like to inform you of your rights and obligations as a witness before this Chamber. Your rights. As a witness in the proceedings before the Chamber, you may refuse to respond to any question or to make any comment which may incriminate you. That is your right against self-incrimination. As for your obligations, as a witness in the proceedings before the Chamber, you must respond to any questions by the bench or relevant parties, except where your response or comment to those questions may incriminate you, as the Chamber has just informed you of your right as a witness. You must tell the truth that you have known, heard, seen, understand, remember rather, experience or observed directly about an event or occurrence relevant to the questions that the bench or parties pose to you. And witness, have you been interviewed by investigators from the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges? If so, how many times, when, and where? Witness, I have been here twice before my appearance today. However, I cannot recall which meeting I was in due to my poor eyesight. President, thank you. And as for your previous statements, have you them read out by anyone in order to refresh your memory? Answer: the ECCC staff read me those statements since Sunday, and that continued until Monday. So those statements that I made earlier were read out to me. President, thank you. And based on your recollection, can you tell the Chamber whether the written records of your interviews read out by the ECC staff reflected what you stated earlier during the interviews? Answer: what was read out to me was consistent with the truth that I told the investigators during the interviews. However, I may not recall everything stated in the interviews. President, thank you, witness. And pursuant to Rule 91 Base of the ECC internal rules, the Chamber hands the floor first to the co-prosecutors to put a question to this witness, and the combined time for the co-prosecutors and the little co-lawyers for civil party is 1 day. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, witness. Good afternoon, Your Honour. Good afternoon, counsel, and to the audience here today. Mr. Witness, my name is Bill Smith. I'm the prosecutor here today that will ask you some questions about events that occurred during the Democratic Kampuchea period, about your experiences and what you observed. I first would like to ask you where you were brought up, in which area. And is it fair to say that you were born in the Tram Kok district in Sector 13, under the Democratic Kampuchea boundaries.
Answer: that is correct.
And before I ask you some more questions about that, do you agree that you were first interviewed by a man from the documentation centre of Cambodia in about 2013 regarding your experiences during the Democratic Kampuchea period? That is, before investigators from this court spoke to you.
He went to see me, asking me about my experiences in the past. I was interviewed at my house in about 2013, and I cannot recall the exact day and month. That is true.
And when you were first interviewed by someone from the Documentation Centre of Cambodia, was that interview written down and did you get to sign it, or was it simply recorded and you haven't seen a written transcript of that first interview you had?
Back then, the interview was not produced in writing. I was interviewed and I was told that it would be documented for historical purpose. And I was not so interested in asking for written documents or records, and they simply asked me about the past events that I was involved in.
Thank you. And the interviews that were conducted by investigators from the ECCC, it's correct that they were written down and you had an opportunity to have them read back to you when those interviews had finished. Is that right?
President, please observe the microphone, Mr. Witness. Witness. In fact, the record was read out to me, and it is consistent with what I informed the DC camp back then. So afterward, there was a written document produced.
I'd like to now ask you some questions. And firstly, in what year did you join the revolution?
Answer: it was on 15 March 1973 when I joined the army.
And were you about 15 years of age when you joined the army in 1973?
That is true. I was still a young boy, and I was simply a messenger bringing and delivering food for the soldiers to the territory controlled by the DK. That is true.
And why is it you can remember that specific date of the 15th of March 1973? It was a long time ago. Can you explain how you can remember the date that you joined?
It is because the biography was collected and usually biography was collected, and I could recall some contents from the biographies when they were collected from me from time to time.
And when you first joined the revolution back in March 1973, was a biography taken from you at that time or at a later time after that?
It was done later on, after 3, 4, 6 or 7 years. Then the biography was collected and information was recorded. So what I was doing at the time, how many messages and letters I had delivered. At the time, we were living at the base of the mountain in the forest, and after living there for a period of 3 or 4 months, biography was taken from me.
And when you say the base of the mountains, are you referring to the Kirirom Mountains?
I was based close to Sromao, Sanhan and Lamray Romil in Angkor Chai. It was the first stage when I joined the army. It was in Office 160. That belongs to the messengers of the region, of the sector rather, Sector 13.
Thank you. And Sector 13, which zone was that in Democratic Kampuchea or beforehand? Which zone was it in?
Sector 13 was in southwest zone. There were several sectors within southwest zone: 13, 35. In fact, there were 4 sectors within that southwest zone.
And who was the secretary or the commander of the southwest zone?
It was Tamok or Ta 15. He was the secretary of the zone.
In your statement, you said your mother joined the revolution in 1970. Where did she go when she joined the revolution?
She joined the revolution when I was still at my birth village. she was at 150, and later on, after 1975, she went to live with her family in Kiriwong. She first joined the office of 150 at the west. That was the initial stage.
And Office 150, what function did that have? What did they do in Office 150?
To my knowledge, Office 150 belongs to the sector. After joining Office 150, women could move to work in other regions to transport the wounded people. At the time, female workers or soldiers were also carrying letters from places to places. They were assigned by the district, the cadres in the district.
In your statement, you said that your father died in about 1967 or 1968. Can you explain briefly how he died?
I was still a young boy when he died. What I know is that he joined the movement of the CPK. Later on, I heard that he was arrested. I could not recall it well about the incident. At the time, he took the logistics from Phnom Penh to Oral. And as I said, I could only recall some events since I was a small boy. Later on, I heard he was arrested and he disappeared.
And you mentioned that your father had good connections. Did he know Sun Sen before 1970?
During the political movement, said the witness, they were perhaps friends since they joined the movement together. And later on, that individual, I mean Sun Sen, had a relation with me since until the time that he died.
You said in your statement that, and I refer to E3/9647, English 0121 to 334 to 35, and Khmer 0097 5756 to 57, and French 0099 6596 to 97. In your interview with DC Cam, you talk about the connection your father had with Sun Sen, and you said, I don't know, because in his history he had connections. That is why I am alive today. That you're alive today because you had good connections, or your father had good connections. Why did you say that?
As I told you earlier, in fact, I did not elaborate it. He had connections with my father, and after I had no father anymore, I was asked. I was asked about my biography, and he started to learn that I was the son of my father, so I had a relations or connection with him.
When you joined the revolution, were you forced to join, or was it your choice? You said you were around 15 years of age when you joined. You were a boy, a teenager. Was it your choice, or were you forced?
That was not the revolution. I did not join the revolution by force. My elder siblings joined the messengers units and tasked with delivering letters and messages. So I decided to join the movement with other senior people. I was not forced to join the movement, in fact.
And why did you decide to join? Can you be more specific?
In fact, I was a teenager in 1970s. I used to go to attend a school at Ong the Sam, and the teachers joined the demonstration, and later on they were shot dead. When I came back home in 1973, in light of the experience that I had when I was at school, I decided to join the revolution to fight against Lon Nol. So I follow other senior peoples in the movement.
And you said that you first started to work in the revolution in Office 160 in Sector 13. And was that the messenger unit of Sector 13?
Answer: that is true. In fact, in Sector 13, there were offices 150 and 160, and 150 belongs to the female messenger, and I was in office 160, the children messenger unit. I was tasked with delivering letters and messages to different places.
And in Sector 13, can you name the districts that were included in Sector 13 at that time?
In relation to districts, numbers were designated to districts: Tram Kok, Angkor Chai, Trang, Kahondat, Prekarpa, and some around Takao. So there were many districts within the sector. I was a teenager in the messenger unit, and I delivered letters from one district to another district.
And you didn't mention Kirivong district, but you mentioned that in your statement. Was the Kirivong district within Sector 13 as well?
Kirivong was within Sector 13, and Kirivong was District 109.
And in Office 160, when you joined in 1973, you said it was the messenger office. Was that located in one place, or were there many messengers attached to Office 160 that were situated in the different districts?
In fact, we were assigned to deliver letters. Sometime I was assigned to deliver the letter to Sromau, Han, or Damrei Romil. Groups were divided to deliver letters, and we were on a rotation basis. So we had a rotation system. There was a rotation system applied. We did not post or based in one specific location.
In your statement, you said that you were a messenger with Office 160 for a few years until September 1975. Is that correct? You were an Office 160 messenger for about 2.5 years.
Answer, that is correct. It is consistent with what I told in the past.
You said messengers moved around the sector, but were you based in any particular district during that 2.5 years? Which district did you live in during that period?
In that 2.5 year period, I was based in Angkor Jai, north of Sanhan Mountain. Later on, I was moved to Angkor for a period of time in the same Angkor Jai commune and district.
And is that time period correct, that you moved to Kirivong district in March 1977? Sorry.
That is not correct. After I moved, it was after I moved to Kirivong for a period of time, I moved to Kraje. In fact, I moved to live in Kirivong in September 1975.
Sorry, that may have been my mistake. And if I can just refer you back to your statement that you gave to DC Cam, and it's E3/9513, and it's answer number 35. And you state it was asked of you for how long did you stay in Kirivong district, you answered, I went to Kirivong district from September 1975 to March 1977, and then you went to Krache. Is that accurate?
If it is so, it is correct, what you read.
At the time that you started work in the sector, Sector 13, in Office 160, and when you were based in Angkor Che district, who was the sector secretary of Sector 13? Who was in charge?
Uncle Sound, who was in charge of Sector 13, and there were other people below him.
And do you know who the Deputy Secretary of Sector 13 was when you started in 1973?
To my recollection, the deputy was Bill Pime, and there were other deputies below these two individuals as well.
In your statements, you refer to Tamut. What was his role in Sector 13? What was his position when you joined?
I am a bit perplexed about the time period. That is, you were asking me about the period between 1975 and 1977, and then you move to a specific period of time, so I'm a bit confused. From 1973 to 1975, Mut was the chief and Sao was the deputy, and later on it was another way around. That is, Sao was the chief and Mut was the deputy from 1975.
And at one stage, did Mut leave the sector and do something else, take up another function?
Before 1975, he was the chief, and later on in 1974 or 1975, he moved to be in charge of Division 3.
And where was your office specifically located in Angkor Che district when you were a messenger between 1973 and September 1975?
I joined it in 1973. However, we relocated from Srom March to Dambrai Romil. And And later on we moved to a location near the National Road in 1975. However, it was still located in Angkor district.
And you said today that you served as a messenger during this period, this 2.5-year period. Were you delivering messages from Angkor Chait district to other districts in the sector? Can you explain which districts you were delivering messages to, what type of messages you were delivering, and generally in more detail, the work you did when you worked with Office 160 in Angkor Chait district?
I cannot recall every detail. I did not read the contents of those letters. However, I was assigned to deliver them, for example, to Tramkot district or to Kiribung district. So I cannot recall every count of a mail delivery. I mainly took mails through Kiribung, Angkor Chait, and Tramkot districts. As I said, I cannot recall every account of mail delivery.
You said that Ta Sam was the Sector 13 secretary, and then sometimes that switched with Ta Mut. Whilst you were working in the Southwest Zone, was Ta Sam, the sector secretary of Sector 13, ever replaced?
I do not understand your question. When Tamut left, Tassam took his position, and later on I went to Kratie, and that was probably the time that Tassam was replaced by someone else, because Tamut left and did not return, and that continued from 1975 to 76. From what I understand, Sam later on got sick and was reassigned to Phnom Penh.
And in your statement, you state that Ta Sam, the sector secretary, was replaced by Chun for a short period of time. Is that correct?
I am not familiar with that name, that is Chun, and I don't believe I mentioned that name in my statement. No, there was no one by that name, Chun, in Sector 13. Maybe you pronounce it wrongly?
I'll see if I can pronounce it better. Chun. Perhaps if I read you an excerpt from your statement, and this is E3/9647, English 0121 2271 to 73, Khmer 0097 5716, and French 0099 6556 to 57. And this is what you said. It was a question. After they released Ta Som, who was put on the sector committee in his place, you answered, Chun was put on the sector committee in the place of Ta Som. Yes, Chun was also arrested. He's my first cousin, once removed, from Bong Prey, also related to him. So why did they arrest relatives of Ta Mok as well? It was a series of arrests. Question, a series of arrests. Did Chun replace Ta Som? You stated before, Chun was on the district committee in Angkor Che. Then he was promoted to sector because Ta Som had been released and Ta Mat had been promoted up the division. And then the question was, after Chun was released, I don't know who came after. Chun was released to go to the Ministry of Industry with Vaughan Vet. Question, in what year? Question, in what year did they release Ta Som? You answered, Ta Som was also released in 1977. Question, if Ta Som was released in 1977, then Chun only held the post for a short time. Answer, he only held it for a short time. Then he was released to go to Phnom Penh and got arrested. Afterwards, I went to Karachi and heard that he had been arrested. Do you understand the Chun I'm referring to now?
Yes, I know, June, and what you read is correct. And now I understand the excerpts that you read. He replaced a sound for a period of time, and by 1978 he was reassigned to work with Vaughan Vet in Phnom Penh at the Ministry of Industry. So he replaced sound for a period of time. And the excerpts that you read to me is correct, and of course it does refresh my memory, because from your first question about Chon, I am not familiar with that name.
Thank you. I apologise that my pronunciation of Khmer words is certainly not the best. I would like to show you a document, and it's in relation to E393.2, and this is a document which is a summary of a number of prisoner records from S21 of people that were detained there during Democratic Kampuchea. My first question is, before I put the document to you, in Democratic Kampuchea, were you aware of an office called S21?
I heard of Office S21 during the regime. At S21, I only heard of the office named that it belongs to the state, but I did not hear anything else. and only senior people were detained at that office, and it was not meant for the detention of lower cadre or ordinary people. But I personally never went to that office.
And after the democratic Kampuchea period, did you ever find out what the function of S21 was from other people in the Khmer Rouge or otherwise? What happened to S21? Did you ever find out?
After the fall of the Khmer Rouge regime, I knew that people suffered, and some of my relatives also were detained and died at 21, including my uncle. However, this information I learned after the fall of the regime.
Thank you. Your Honour, I'd now like to show the witness an excerpt.
President Co-Prosecutor, it is now time for our short break. The chamber will take a short break and resume at 25 to 11. Court officer, please assist the witness at the waiting room reserved for witnesses and civil parties, and invite him back into the courtroom at 25 to 11.